Yeah, hi everyone. So, based on multiple, I've been receiving multiple requests like what is Agile? Many of you might know what is Agile, many of you won't. So, this is just a very brief, uh, very brief introduction about what Agile is. Uh, Earlier, we used to work with a waterfall model, right? There was waterfall model where we used to do the requirement gathering. Like, say, if we are going to build a software, and our software must have a web page, then what exactly we need? We need to know that what will the software do. So the questions like what it is going to do, whom it's going to cater to, and why is it going to cater to. So these are questions we usually come up with all the answers, and there are lots of questions like even how the web page must look like, maybe what colors and combinations it should look like, what are the functions of each page or each key that we are referring to, how easily can we work on changing or the web page or something, or what exactly is the load time. So these all concepts, so these are something around the requirement gathering, so we get to know all the reasons why we are building this web page. So that is the first step of it. Then there comes a phase where we start designing it. Like, okay, so this is the requirement, let us design it. I'm just going in brief. This might not cover all the steps of waterfall model, but this is the main step. Then we develop it. Then it goes through the QA phase, quality assurance phase, where the QA testers test the application for each development that we have done. Then it goes under SIT by the QA testers, that is system integration testing, and then it goes under the UAT, or which we usually also say it's the business who does the testing. So this was the earlier plan. So says this entire model or waterfall might take say 6 months. So we cannot wait for this entire thing to fail at the end moment and then say that okay, this has failed. Rather, what we know is that the requirement keeps on changing. Say the color today, it has been mentioned like it should be red in color, but tomorrow somebody says that no, it should be yellow. So there would be a wastage of time, right? Meaning after this is done, again we have to come back and go through all the phases again. Rather, had it been just a small step and we had we broken this big application, big chunk of application into smaller parts, like if the epic, so if my goal, if I say that my goal is a web page designing and development, then I will divide it into smaller epics. The epics might have say something like design the dashboard. To somebody else, we can say design the side nav bar. To someone else, will say that you design the REST API calls. If you don't know what REST API calls, don't even bother about it. It's just a small task. So somebody we are telling that okay, you design the web page with integration of all these separate components. So these are the uh, pillars to it, right? So these we can break it into epics, and these epics can then be broken into the Jira stories. Like say if there are smaller Jira stories which can be there, so you can have a Jira story one, you can have a Jira story two, and all three Jira stories being developed by three different developers. So if one of the story fails, say the second story failed, then also the one and the three might go. So this is what is agile all about. So we just account the fact that the requirement gathering phase can be in incremental model multiple times, multiple times. It can happen, right? So we don't say that it is frozen and it will stay the same for 6 months around. Rather, it would change with every time. That is requirement gathering. So requirement gathering will change on everything. And who tells you that what the requirement gathering is? So there are a few roles to it, roles which you should know. The first role being there is a product owner, okay, who owns the product. Then there might be a business analyst. So business analyst understands the requirement, what needs to be done. They brief the scrum master who might have a rotating model. Like there can be one person who is solely the scrum master, one unique person, or in rotation basis it can happen. Anyone among the team becomes scrum master for a certain duration of time. It depends. Every organization has different way of designing how the agile should work. So Scrum Master is there who assigns, who plans that which all Jira stories have to be picked up or prioritized for this current sprint. So sprint, when we say sprint, is the time for this entire uh, development. So you can assume it as like a 2 week sprint that is usually the common one that is being followed across organization, but it might vary. It might vary according to different needs and requirements. So people choose stories. So if I have chosen a story, like I have chosen that I want to design the side nav bar. So this is the Jira story too, and the description is so. I will have acceptance criteria written to it, based on which the QA will do the testing, right? So that is how it works. Then I will work for this Jira story. How much time will I take? So might be this Jira story might require 3 person in days, and I will tell it in the beginning, or the entire team, or the Scrum Master, or there is a story grooming phase. So we'll come into that those different meetings later. But say this Jira story will need 3 person in days, like one developer will work for 3 days, 3 business days, not just days, but business days. We shouldn't work on holidays. So 3 business days, and then we'll finish the story. So, what is the story points? The story point of this Jira is 3PD. Okay, 3PD is the story. So it includes the analysis that the developer does and the development that they do. It might or might not include the QA part also. So it depends whether the acceptance is at which level or what is the phase. So the Jira stories usually are created in different pages. Like people usually work in well, not Jira exactly, but Jira Atlassian is very common place where people define the Jira stories, and people, I say, then there these are the product owners who decide, business analysts who gives, and the end user customer who tells that okay what is needed. There's a scrum master. Then what else? Then we have a delivery manager. We might have, we might not have, it depends. Then we have the technical lead. That also depends whether they will have. But technical leads are also a part of development team. So technical lead also individually contributes to the development stories. Or that sometimes they usually take up the complex part which is required. Maybe they will do a POC and then they will delegate it to developers to work it on. Then there will be a team of QA who will do the sign off. So QA signs off. So when they sign off, it goes into production. So that's the end state of it. Now, whether it will go to production for each Jira story separately or whether it will be stacked, multiple Jira stories. So, multiple Jira stories stacked and then released finally to prod. It depends. Everything is agile. Agile, the real meaning of agile is that whenever you think of it, do it now. The requirement will change. You have to be agile. So it's not like I had a planning, I did a planning for the next 1 year. I'm not going to account any of the requirement change that you're going to come out. You might have different requirements. Like I have never seen that a developer works uniformly in one Jira story, which has been decided 1 year back. we always see that the requirement changes, the market changes, the trends change, the needs change, everything is changing, ever changing, and change is the only constant that we have heard, right? So we have to be agile. We have to take up things as it when it comes. Okay, so these are the people, the different roles. Now let's come to okay. So there was Jira Atlassian where we usually write. Then there might be a few pages where you can say for the Jira story, Confluence, or you might have different tools and mechanisms of how you want to share the Jira story, or maybe you can write it in the Confluence or not. There are different tools to it. Like Azure might have something else. Microsoft would have come with something else. Google will come with something else. So there are multiple and many options available. You can always go ahead and see that. So let's see the meetings. What are the usually the meetings that you need to attend for the Jira story? So there is, say, if I'm currently working in sprint 7. So we have delivered sprint 1 to 6, and each sprint being 2 week sprint. So we can say that okay, 12 weeks have already passed, and we are now in this sprint 7. So while doing the development of sprint 7, I as a developer am developing sprint 7 stories. I will have a bi-weekly, a weekly, daily, or any kind of meeting, which is usually story grooming. What we say that what is the sprint 8, sprint 9, sprint 10, or whichever sprint you want to take it up. That is the call of the team, the entire team. All the roles can decide that what is the priority or what is their epic or goal that they want to achieve in the quarter or in the release or in the month or whatever goal timeline they have. So they will groom the stories. So they will say that, okay, I have three more requirements. So please listen to it. I'll do the story grooming today. So there are story grooming meetings, maybe bi-weekly, twice a week, or maybe once in sprint. And then there, all the developers, scrum masters, QA, everybody, they understand what the requirement is, and then they assign the PD, the story points in PDs, story point in PDs. They assign to it, and nobody picks it up then. Okay, so this is just a story which then finally goes into the backlog, Jira backlog, and stays there. So when say this sprint ends at sprint 7 ends and sprint 8 is going to commence, at that time we choose from the backlog, okay, which are the active stories, which one to make it, which story shall we make it active now from the backlog to the active state. So we'll make it in progress. So these are the different in progress. Then there is a dev done phase. There might be a uh, peer review. There might be an SME review, subject matter expert review for the code that you have written. There might be a QA part, there might be a SIT, there might be UAT, or whichever statuses that you can put. So you will usually see the Jira stories having these statuses. So when you make it backlog to active, and finally it is released, something like that. So story grooming happens well before the next sprints. Okay, and then each day you will have a stand up. Many say it as scrum also, scrum call, you would have heard. So it's like a handshake that I am planning. Usually it happens in the morning, morning time of the day. It might happen at late night also if you have teams across different geographies. So there's a planning phase. There's a handshake that what is your planning, what you have done already, done part, and what you are going to target for today. So every day, usually you will see that we will have scrum calls or stand-up calls where you will give your status or will discuss all the issues that you are having, or you might discuss it. But here, one thing is very common that in Agile people say that ever work on silos, don't ever work silently. Whenever you have issue, always reach out to the other person and get it done ASAP, as soon as possible. Okay. So that's how it is. And then there is a retrospective session, retrospectives at the end of Scrum. So here all the people come back and it's a joyful session. And that's what I would say it as. People say that what their learnings are, maybe what they want to say as feedback. The Scrum Masters might share the velocity of the sprint, that how fast it is progressing, how many spillovers are there, meaning how many they planned but they could not deliver, but it has to go onto the next sprint. So spillovers might be there. They might also discuss an issues like what are the burnouts, what they planned, what was not being done, or how much burnout had happened, or where the planning was missed. So this is like a retrospection of life as we do. It is the retrospection of the Scrum. So everybody takes up the feedback so that it is implemented in the next sprint, and maybe some graphs or charts also can be presented here to make the next sprint even better. Okay. So velocity is something like the first sprint, the velocity you should always target for success for the first sprint. And then velocity increases sprint wise. With each sprint, the developers and every person, they become more and more expert in their work, and then it increases. So we have to be progressive. That's how the sprint is. So that is the main part of the entire sprint. In brief, I know there are various research been going on, like how the sprint should be, how the agile should be, agile or scrum, or what is the model that they should be. So everybody is going away from waterfall. Agile is the new trend because you don't have interference with the other team members. You don't have to wait for the story to have merge conflicts or something. You can independently work on your own stories. You usually try to have less and less number of blockers. Okay, so that if there is a blocker in one of the stories, you will have to take up in the next story. So there are few enhancements or feedbacks from different people, which is being continuously being updated into the agile guidelines, or there's no specific guideline as such. Also, a few people might work with agile model in one sprint and put waterfall in the other. So it depends whatever suits best for you. So that's up to you. Agile would mean that okay, you have to be very fast enough to progress with your story. That's it for now. Thank you. And if you think that I have not covered a few topics or something, then please just comment. Maybe you can reach out to me in any platform that we have. I'll share my details where you can connect with me, and I'll come back later with a new course. So till then, keep learning. Bye.